Hello and welcome to the Lee Michael Show on thepowerofvoices.com. Lee and Carol are on duty. Are you ready to kick off another week? A great conversation, engaging each other in what's happening in the world and our neighborhoods. What a weekend, huh? Another loss of life down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Unfortunately, 3 cops were killed and 3 injured. One still in critical condition, the last I saw in the news. Another sad day in America. The big kickoff of the Republican National Convention up in Cleveland. That should be interesting. Good morning, Carol. How are you doing?
Good morning.
How was your weekend?
I was tired. I
You
helped
worked,
a
huh?
friend out, and I got wore out.
Oh,
I'm
that's
not,
what happens.
Yeah, I don't like the heat, and we went downtown, and it was so humid. It just wore me out.
Yeah.
And then we worked out in her yard, and it was even more hot.
Well, it's, you know what? I went to Vegas over the weekend to visit my son who had surgery this past Tuesday. And unfortunately, the pain medication that they gave him to help him recover wasn't working. So I ended up in the emergency room Saturday night, Sunday morning for about 5, 6, 7 hours. I don't know. I was delirious, tired. But we finally got Corey, I think, on the right path here to help manage his pain. But it was 106 degrees in Vegas.
Like Palm Springs, huh?
Whew. Man, it's a toaster.
Now, is Vegas, though, a different type of humidity than Palm Springs?
No, they're pretty close. It's dry heat.
See, I don't like
desert
heat.
Yeah. You know, I can take the desert heat over the Chicago humidity, St. Louis, Atlanta, Florida. The humidity really, really drains you.
Believe
You
it or
know.
not, when I was in the Middle East, I can take that heat. It's
Yeah?
just an entirely different heat. Even though when you climb off a plane, your whole eyeglasses steam up.
Steam up. Yeah, that's
It's so
humidity.
hot,
Yeah.
but the humidity's different. It doesn't drain me.
No.
I don't know why, but it doesn't.
Well, that is a desert area, the Middle East. So it's probably similar to Arizona and Vegas and places like that. I've never been there, so I'm not 100% certain.
Is
but
it the same kind of desert though? Because I can't take Palm Springs heat, and isn't
Really?
that desert?
Yeah, pretty much.
The
yeah.
one here, when it's humid, I can't take it. It could be 70 degrees out, but if it's humid,
Yeah.
I'm wore out.
Yeah, it'll take more out of you when the humidity level is high.
I mean, I woke up yesterday and I go, dang, I look 100 years old. Because I was in that heat all day the day
Yeah,
before. And when I made it home, I was so tired. I had stopped, which I don't usually eat pizza. I bought me a medium-sized pizza.
Did you eat the whole thing?
No, I didn't. I fell asleep. I took a shower. I fed the cats, put them in the bedroom, and thought, okay, I'm going to watch TV. I was gone, but when I
Passed
woke
out.
up, the left side of my face looked like it had had a stroke during the night. And I said,
You
dang,
were sleeping hard.
I look terrible.
So we had rest is the key. And I got in late last night, got the last flight out of Vegas. That flight was packed. I almost didn't make it, But anyway, I got a little rest. So I'm feeling pretty good this morning. Pretty good. Not 100%, but ready to kick off another week of great conversation here on the Lee Michael Show. The Republican convention kicks off now. I think the first speaker, whoever that's going to be, is probably on stage now. It's at the Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. I talked to my nephew, Big Al, this morning, and he said, man, he's never seen Cleveland this way. He lives there in the Cleveland area. And he says the security is unbelievable. They got dogs, horses, combat crew. He says, man, I've never seen so much security.
Yeah, but what good does it do if it's like, I think John Kerry said this, that it's like a needle in a haystack. You don't know where they're going to come
Yeah.
from if you allow people to carry guns,
Yeah.
and that needs to be stopped.
Yeah. There's concern about Ohio being an open carry state. So there's nothing to prevent people from walking down the street with a gun on their
But
shoulder or in
weren't
their
they
hand.
trying to pass something right now where they can't carry them?
Yeah,
Right?
but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't understand that anyway. Because in California, can we carry guns walking down the street?
No, no. California's not an open carry state. You can get a concealed weapon permit, but it's not open carry. Texas is an open carry.
I don't get it. I told you my sister from
Yeah.
Mississippi, she has a gun, but she
Yeah.
walks with it because there's a bear on her property, a mountain lion, and or whatever type of big cat it is, and
Yeah.
snakes. And I think hers is more for that. But I mean, if she had to shoot a person, she probably would.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that
Well, that's
we
the
have
problem.
to live that way, but I don't know that it's going to change and go away at this point. Louisiana is an open carry state. With
Well,
the
you know
shooting
what
over-
irritates me with Louisiana? I don't know if it's the governor or the sheriff in parts of Louisiana. He says he's going to wrangle up all the gangbangers. It's not the gangbangers shooting people right now. It's our vets
Yeah.
that we don't take care of. I mean, they
Yeah.
come back from fighting these horrible wars and they're mentally unstable because if you read about the guy yesterday, he put out stuff. He lets you know he wasn't
Yeah.
with anybody. But there was something he said that leaned more to the right wing to what a Republican is. Read up on him. It's a
Yeah,
trip.
I saw a couple of videos of him that he posted on, I think it was
Yeah.
Facebook or YouTube.
But it's funny, didn't nobody turn him in when they were seeing this on
Well,
Facebook?
see, you know, that's the thing. And you've heard me say this before. You know, you get the signs from your dysfunctional family members or members who have mental issues. You can't ignore it. It's sitting there right in front of you. They're telling you, hey, look, I've got problems. There's some issues here. And we ignore those early warning signs. And we've got to do a better job of that. I mean, this guy told the world that if something goes down, you know, I'm to blame. I'm not associated with any kind of organization or anything. This is coming from me. This is how I feel. Now, what does that say to me? And this kind of goes along with the theme of the show today. The theme or the question is why? WHY. That's a powerful, powerful word or question, if you will, because that's what we've got to figure out. Why do people do, say, and act certain ways? Okay? If we understand why, then we can come up with a solution. Now, the last two mass shootings against cops were former military men. The most recent one yesterday, a Marine. Marines are trained killers. That's what they know how to do because they're trained that way. They're not trained to be Boy Scouts, Good Samaritans. They're trained to kill. That's their first thing that's what they do. Same thing with combat Army guys who, Mr. Johnson, the guy that killed the 5 cops in Texas. Trained killers. Now, you have thousands, hundreds of thousands of military personnel that are no longer military. They're disgruntled. Maybe they had some issues while they were in the military. They may be honorably discharged or dishonorably. It doesn't matter.
These ones were honorably discharged.
Honorably discharged, right. So they came out of the service. They're back into the civilian world. They are trained killers. They know how to use these guns as well as anybody else. That, my friend, has opened up Pandora's box because these guys know how to do it.
And you know, it sounded like he wasn't just out to kill cops.
No, they're
If you
trained to
read
kill
what he
people,
was
period.
he came there just to kill.
Now, the question becomes, why did he want to do what he did? Both of these guys. Why? That's what we have to look into. As the police officers, the FBI, whoever is doing these investigations, the question is, why?
Well, don't you think maybe because when they were in the service and they were over in the Middle East, That's what they were trained to do, was kill. And
Well, yeah.
that's where their mental state is.
Sure.
I mean, they beg for help. You can go over to the VA, and these people are begging for help, and
Right.
they're not getting it.
That's
They're not
that's a
getting
problem.
it. They get told when they're in the service, when you come back, you'll have your job. They come back. Some of them have come back, and someone squatted in their house, and they have
Yeah.
to fight to get their house back. And
Oh, their
these-
families left them.
yeah, these
Wife's
young people
gone,
come back,
girlfriends.
and they've lost it. But if they're not getting help,
Yep.
it's
that's
because
a problem.
this wasn't about a policeman. It wasn't about any nationality, because a black cop was killed too.
Exactly.
So, and then reading about him, he lets you know he wasn't with any group,
Right.
because ISIS is going to want to take credit for everything, because they're basically on their way out.
Well, I hope so, but I doubt it. But
Oh, they're
they're-
after them big time.
oh yeah. But see, the problem is
Everybody blames us though, the U.S.
then it's a needle in the haystack because
Yeah.
there are new people that are being brainwashed into this on a daily basis.
I don't even know if
You
it's
know?
that. I think with these two young men, I just think reading the papers and that made them feel like they were fighting another war again. Something went wrong, and I mean,
Well-
to blame gangbangers. I mean,
No.
they have nothing.
This has nothing to do with
with
gangs.
it. Maybe we wouldn't have so many gangs if they made the schools better as they're growing up and paid more attention to what goes on in these
Mm-hmm.
schools and what goes on in these cities like that. Because not everybody's a gangbanger in a poor area.
Right.
Sometimes they have no choice.
Yeah,
you know.
it's sad. It's sad because we don't have enough outlets for getting people to do the right thing, creating opportunities and what have you. Now, let me just say this. The problem that this country is faced with is complex. And it's a host of issues. One of the things that we have to deal with today is the fact that technology is available to expose a lot of heinous acts in our communities, people being treated or violated by police officers. There's a host of issues that we have to deal with. But more importantly, and I think the president spoke very well on this point, you know, we've got to be respectful. And that respect level comes on both sides. As it relates to the relationships between the community, meaning the people of this country, and the relationship with police officers, we've got to bridge that gap. We got to make that better. It's got to be more trust. Okay? More respect. Honor. I want to be comfortable that if by chance I'm pulled over for a traffic violation, that I'm not being picked on. And I want to know that that officer is going to treat me with respect. Okay? I'm a tax-paying citizen. I'm not a criminal. But if I do something wrong, that's what we have police, to check people who are doing something wrong. So if you're in violation of a rule or law, then you have to expect to be pulled over and dealt with accordingly. But, and here's where the disconnect comes in, I think. When you're pulled over and a police officer appears to be disrespectful to you, that's where the problem comes in. And I think that there are times when that happens, and we've seen too many videos showing this type of thing. And, you know, he said, well, he or she was going for a gun. There was no gun. So that's fear. That cop is fearful of his or her life. And they want to go home and see their families. I get that. But you know what, folks? Here's the bottom line. We, the people in the community, have to be mindful that these guys are doing a job. And the police officers have to be in the right frame of mind to do that job. I think that more training is needed. I think more psychological evaluation is needed on the police force. And I'm not just speaking on a blanket rule and saying that all police officers are doing something wrong. I'm not saying that. But it's enough to make the community, the people, paranoid, concerned, scared, not having trust, losing respect or lost respect for the men and women in blue. There is where the problem lies. Why? And that's the question of the show today. Why? Because there have been too many examples of police brutality, and the people are speaking out. And just today, and I'm trying to find the story now, I saw the blurb come across, I think it was on CNN. Let me go there. Another police officer in that trial against the young man that was killed in the police, as the old saying used to go, the paddy wagon, was found not guilty today.
Which one was that one?
The one in Baltimore.
And what was that one about?
You remember they roughed this guy up. They threw him in the
Oh, and they
in the
killed
wagon
him with
and
the
he wrote,
taser.
Freddie Gray. Another officer cleared today. Now, the sentiment from most people who saw the video, who followed this case, feel that these cops did something wrong. Now, so far, every one of the cops that have gone to trial have been cleared. Now, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with the outcome of these trials because they felt like these guys did something wrong. Now, there are people, and there have been reports saying that this individual, Freddie Gray, had been arrested in the past, and he has caused injury to himself when they put him in the paddy wagon. And, you know, it's kind of a history from this young man. Now, how do you prevent, if you know this person has a history of doing bodily harm to himself to try to blame the cops? It seems to me that they would have taken extra precaution. And forget about that. When you are arrested, it seems to me that there should be a responsibility and a liability on the police department to ensure when they have you in custody, that you should be placed in a wagon, maybe strapped in so that you can't get bounced around, to prevent someone accusing you of doing some harm to them. So if I'm strapped in on a metal bench in the back of a wagon and I can't get bounced around while they're making turns and what have you, I can't blame you for doing damage to me after you put me in a wagon. So when you just throw somebody in there on the floor and close the door, you have just opened up Pandora's box. Now this person has the ability of blaming you for some bodily harm after putting them in the wagon.
Well, did the person fight them when they put him in the wagon?
The guy was kind of limp. When they put him in there, he couldn't even walk. At least it appeared that way in the video. Now, whether he could actually walk or not, but the strength in his legs from the videos that I saw, they were basically almost dragging him and putting him into the wagon. So it seems to me that in all the training that the police departments around this country go through and all of the safety things that they should be using, that's, to me, as a breakdown.
But that's not all cops, Lee.
I'm not saying all cops. I'm saying a policy.
The one that got killed.
There should be a policy
The
to keep
cop
that from
got
happening.
killed yesterday or the day before, those three, if you read the story on them, they were good cops.
Oh, no, I'm not. It's not a good cop, bad cop conversation I'm having. I'm saying a policy that all police departments should have when you arrest someone. It's just like, okay, over the weekend, I must have watched 25 different videos
that's
of
what
arrests.
the media wants you to watch.
No. It got nothing to do with the media.
I
I'm
mean,
just talking about videos that have been captured by John Q. Public that
That's
have been
right,
placed on
but-
the air, on the internet. When I see some arrests where you see the officer actually takes the person's head and pushes it down when they put them in the wagon, others, they don't do that. I'm saying there should be procedures, policies that there are certain things that you do in every arrest to ensure that these people that are being arrested can't come back to sue you. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, does the video show you from the beginning what really went down from the time they stopped the person?
Chances are, in most cases, you don't get 100% of the video. I'm
So
talking
we-
about what
we-
you can see.
Okay.
When someone is arrested, when you're handcuffed and you're walked over to be placed in the back of a back seat of a police car or in a paddy wagon or whatever, you can see that. Yeah, you don't need to see anything before that. What I'm saying is the safety precautions that the police departments ought to be doing. It seems to me that there's something missing there. They're not consistent in how they handle every person. That's what I'm talking
Well,
about.
I listened to a cop they were interviewing, and they're trained certain ways. And being a person that can shoot a video, you can edit anything you want before you turn it over.
Yeah.
So who's to say people aren't editing things they don't want on that video?
Well, that's true.
Because you're not seeing the whole thing.
But
'Cause
those
I,
things.
I can give you a good example. A kid that lived in my house. He was out, and this will tell you a thing about police. And he hit a police car. He drives drunk.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back to the place. It was an off-duty cop he hit.
Right.
The guy follows him. The gate don't let the guy in. He goes, even though he's an off-duty cop, he says, I got to call the cops in Culver City.
Right.
So he comes into the house, the kid. I'm up. He walks in. He's drunk as hell. And heaven knows what else he was on. He goes upstairs like nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what if he had ran someone over? So he goes upstairs. All of a sudden, there's this banging at my door. I said to Drew, don't answer it. I went and looked at the peephole, and I said, who is it? They said, the police. I said, well, let me see your badge. Because this kid, knowing somebody might have followed him in, it was the police. There was like 8 cops.
Right.
So they go, they named the name.
Right. Because they pulled his license plate.
Yeah,
Right
they
up
named his
thing.
name.
Yeah.
No, he didn't even have the license plate. They got it through the security gate coming in his
okay.
name.
Okay.
He parked the car. He hadn't changed the registration. He had bought the car, and this poor lady's probably got tickets for days because of him. So they asked me. I say, yes, he's here. I holler his name. He comes down. He goes, I've been here. I said, no, you haven't. I'm not going to lie for him.
Right.
Well, this was right after the Ferguson thing. Now, I want you to hear what he does. So they say to him, he said, I didn't hit nobody's car. And then you know what he started screaming? Ferguson, to wake all my neighbors up. Nobody was doing nothing to him. Nothing.
Yeah.
And he's going on and on. I said, shut that. And I don't want to say what I said after that. I told him to shut up. Shut your mouth. Nobody's hurting you.
Right.
But they
He's performing.
handcuffed him so nice. They didn't rip his shoulder up behind his back.
Right.
They were perfect gentlemen to him.
Well, see, and that's
But all the way down the hall, he was screaming this, and it's like, you're pitiful.
yeah.
You're pitiful. You just
Yeah,
hit
he knew
this,
he was wrong. He was trying
hit
to
this man.
capitalize.
You've hit other people on the freeway, and you just drive off. What happens the day
That's a hit and run.
you run somebody over and you kill somebody? You think it's okay. You're one of these people that think it's okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. And it's a good thing that they treated him, that
he-
way, in spite of the fact that he was
he-
trying to cause
He was
hate and
trying to
discontent.
play this minority
Right.
thing,
Right.
and it's like, grow up.
Yeah.
And this has happened a lot. So sometimes we don't know the whole story on
Oh, no
things.
question.
We really
no
don't.
question about it.
I
Absolutely.
mean, these last 2 guys, I agree definitely with everybody. That was stone murder.
Yeah.
That guy was laying flat, arms out. They murdered him. And they probably tried to plant something. Who knows what they do. And then the other one where the girl, luckily, she Facebooked it live.
Yeah.
Because the first thing they did was throw her phone.
Yeah.
But she was smart. And I just think it's sad that they continue to put his picture up for his poor family to see him dead, laying there with his arm looking like they shot it off.
Yeah. It was horrible.
Now, that was murder, and it's caused a lot of problems. Arrest these 2 cops.
But see, here's
Arrest
the thing.
them.
Here's the thing. You saw it, I saw it, and millions of other people
Even
saw it.
cops are mad over it.
Oh yeah, but see, here's the thing: there will probably be a trial, and depending on the outcome, will determine how the public responds to that. Let's play what if here and see, and this is why the question why is so powerful. Why do things happen? Why do people say certain things? It's a big question. It's hard to answer sometimes. So let's assume that the cop who shot the young man up in Minnesota and the cop who shot the guy, Alton Sterling, down in Baton Rouge, are cleared. Just like today, Lieutenant Brian Rice in Baltimore has been cleared of involuntary manslaughter and reckless endangerment of Freddie Gray. He's been cleared. And it appears that there are people protesting already in the streets because of the outcome of this trial. So where does it end? And this is where the disconnect is. People don't trust the justice system. Even if it's a fair trial, there's all this. People are skeptical. They think things are rigged because there's no trust. And I understand that. It bothers me that we are in this space, that we don't trust our justice system. We don't trust the police officers. We don't trust the military. We don't trust the president. We don't trust. There's no trust. Why? Because that's been broken so many times. Based on what we see and hear and read. And yes, sometimes we don't get the full story. No question about it. And sometimes the whole story comes out in a trial and we still don't believe what our lying eyes see and hear. There is the problem right there. That's the root of the problem, because we have a history in this country and around the world of not being fair. And technology today is showing a lot of that unfairness. Now, I'm not advocating anybody to do anything wrong. I'm a peaceful person. I came up through the Martin Luther King era of peaceful protest. I think people should be heard and seen. We need to listen. We need to be cautious about how we participate in various activities.
But it's not the people protesting doing this.
No, it isn't. It isn't. And as with everything.
And it's not the gangbangers doing it.
Even during the peaceful marches back in the 60s, those marches were occasionally hijacked by people who had a different agenda.
Yeah, people that have possibly been arrested before, people like these two young guys
Yeah.
that have come back from the service and they're mentally disabled. They have problems.
Yep.
But it's not usually the gangs. A lot of times it's the gangs stepping in trying to stop it. But they always want to come back and you know, they seem to forget police just haven't killed black people. In this year alone, they've shot 61 white people.
Right.
Have been killed by the police.
Yeah. I mean, it's a problem.
The highest total out of any race.
Right. That has always been the case. Now, I think that, and that's why you see a lot of white people out in these protests as well, because it's not just a black
No,
thing.
it isn't.
You know, it's a trust issue, a lack of trust by the public.
And I'll bet you if you went in on each of these white people, you'll find out they either come from a very poor family or maybe they've been in jail before.
Mm-hmm.
The same as what they're doing to the all races. And this is what that movement's about. The
Right.
law has to change. You can't have two separate laws. Because I
Right.
sat with a client yesterday and we kind of argued about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just told her, I didn't live the same life you lived. She goes, no, I said, no, I didn't. I said, they would pick me up for no reason as a kid because I'm Native American,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm from. I go, and they would arrest me for no reason whatsoever. I go, so it is different laws. I said, rich people get off of everything. And it's terrible to say this. Every once in a while, they I don't know the word, but they'll take one white person and they're going to pay the price. But take 20
Right.
of them that have did the same thing. It might be one that's going to pay, but
Right.
take 20 poor people or people of color, 18 of them are going to pay and 2 might get off. So
And I think that's what we're seeing. You know, that's the cry from the public, the lack of fairness and justice.
Needs to change. And I think Trump has brought a lot of this out with his hate.
Here's a problem too. Now the last two people who killed the cops, Baton Rouge and Dallas, former military, one Army, one Marine. Now there's a lot of ex-military people back into civilian life. There's a lot of ex-military cops. So, my question is, are there some cops, former military, that may be suffering from some of the same issues that civilian, ex-military civilians are suffering from? What type of screening, what type of evaluation is being done on those cops that are now cops that are former military? So you've got a military mindset, a mentality of shoot to kill, and their cops are trained whether they've been former military or not. But I think there's an enhanced level of shoot to kill when you've gone through military training, especially in the combat division in Army and Marines and Special Forces. These guys are now out policing our streets. My question is, what type of sensitivity training have they had that says, okay, though you are a professionally trained sniper, killer, you know how to take life. What kind of sensitivity training, what kind of training have they had that is special to say, okay, it's not your major or main objective to kill, but to serve and protect and use this that you really know how to do as a very, very last resort? That is my question.
Was the guy yesterday or the other day, was he sniper trained?
I don't know.
Because I heard the 911 and they didn't know where he was shooting from.
Right.
So he must have been, when he was in the service, trained to be like a sniper, because
could be.
They can shoot where nobody sees them.
Well, yeah. And if depending on the type of rifle they're using and all of that, I mean, there's all kind of things that can be done.
And,
and these guys are trained to use those
I have
weapons.
A question, too. Why? Why is it when a guy comes out of war or service, he doesn't get a place where they send him to like a rehab to help him rehabilitate mentally? Only if their legs are cut off, they help him. And sometimes but a convict can come out of prison and they send him to a special house and they do all this. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's a short period of debriefing that they go through, but not nearly enough. And I think, unfortunately, we don't spend enough time and effort on mental help and preventing people from slipping into that bad space, man, that dark, dark space when they're feeling alone, lonely, denied, deprived, and all the emotions that come along with. Once you're pumped up. So you're pumped up. You are brainwashed in the military to do a certain job and to do it to the best of your ability. And then when you come back to the real world, all of that is still in you. You're not decompressed. You're not deprogrammed. You're just thrown back into the real world. I mean, during the Vietnam era, many of my friends that went over, they were in the Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Army, all of the branches. One of my buddies that was in the Marines. When he came back, when we would go out to party and go to nightclubs and what have you, a loud boom over the speaker system would just take him into the Zulu zone. He would jump under the table and go, "Incoming, incoming," because he was ambushed several times, and many of the guys that he was serving with died. So he was freaking out. I don't know that he ever got any real help from that. And the last time I saw my friend, he was driving and living in a yellow school bus, full of junk from the front to the back, living like a rolling hobo. And that broke my heart because he was a great guy. I knew his family. They grew up on the same street. His parents knew my parents. They all went to the same schools together. So, and there was family history. And I don't know that he ever got the right help that he needed. Obviously not. Had trouble holding a job. He was married, had a little girl. And I don't know what happened to him. The last time I saw him was in 1979 in Charlotte, North Carolina. He came to my radio station in this bus. And it was full of junk. Old washing machines, just junk and garbage. I'm going, man, what happened? What's going on? And he had the long hair and he was all bearded up and he was, he looked horrible. Not my old friend.
Now, what do you think about the off-duty cop in New York that was drunk and ran these people over? I don't know if he ran them over, if they were in a car, but
I didn't hear about that
one kid was killed. One girl, her leg was hanging off. Now, he was trying to back his car and get away.
Oh, my God.
And people stopped him. He couldn't get the car to move, and they stopped him. But I want to see what happens to him.
Well, I mean, he should be treated just like any other drunk driver.
Well, I'm sure they arrested him.
I hope so. I mean, drunk drivers are drunk drivers.
That was in Williamsburg.
Williamsburg, New York?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just happened. And this kid was ready to intern at a great place. And all he was guilty of is that him and his friends were walking.
Woman driving a pickup in a standoff with police at the entrance of the Tulsa, Oklahoma National Guard base. Here's my question. Because of the technology that we have today, are we being exposed to things that have always happened, and we're just seeing it because there are 300 million smartphones out now? The reporting of information is dispersed, distributed a lot faster. We no longer have to wait for a newspaper to be printed, and the news that's printed today is old news by the time we read it tomorrow. And most people don't read newspapers anymore. We rely on social media and other electronic delivered news media, from the Huffington Post to the various TV stations that are online, the various networks and blogs. I'm just wondering, has all of this been going on all along and we just didn't hear about it? I just wonder. My gut feeling is I think that it has been going on, and also my gut tells me that it may be a bit enhanced now because of all the other crazy that's going on that we know about, and we get copycatters, people that are doing the same stuff that some other knucklehead has done. And people are just angry. And I think that we need to talk about that. We need to talk about the anger. We need to let it out. I was talking to a friend last week, called me up. They were all upset, and it went into a rant. And I listened. And I tried to reason with them and give them some hope and encouragement. At the end of the conversation, you know what they said? Thanks for letting me rant. I feel better now. So are we listening to people who have internal issues? They're faced with bills and family issues and all the other complex things that happen to us because we're human. We don't wake up in the morning. I know you don't, Carol. I don't either. We don't wake up in the morning saying, all right, bring it on. I'm waiting for some more bovine.
I've been getting really depressed because the minute I turn TV on or look at my Facebook, all I see is bad stuff, and it bothers me. It's like nobody wants to talk about this young kid from Georgia that bicycled for 6 hours so he could apply to this school. He was homeless. And he was put up a little tent or something, and the police seen him. Nobody wants to talk about the good that police do. I mean, the media doesn't. And
Right.
they seen him, and they asked him why was he in the bushes, and he told them he wanted to make sure he could get in this school. And they turned around and helped him. They got him a motel room, and all of a sudden somebody put up a GoFundMe, which I wish there was a different way of doing it because they take 20% of that money.
Yeah.
And people bought him food. He's in a motel. And I think that's a great story, but
It
nobody
is.
wants to talk about the good
Well,
stuff.
you just did.
Yeah.
You just did. See? So the power of voices, through your voice, you just told me something that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
And now all of our listeners and viewers are aware of it as well. So you know what, Carol, let's make that a feature. The good news, Carol's good news report. How's that? And that'll help you because it depresses you. It depresses me too. And I bet you there are hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people out there right now that are in the same mindset that you and I are in because we're inundated with all the negativity.
Well, it's because people think these things don't happen in other countries, but
Right.
the media is controlled.
It
and
is.
and when they sit and they complain what police do, it's kind of a joke because in other countries it's like the stuff that's happening in Turkey where they tried to take over. Every one of those people are going to be killed.
Yeah,
They're probably going
that's
to
not
kill
gonna be a
about
good day.
3,000 people. They're not going to say it's okay what they did, or they're just going to kill them. They're not going to go to trial. They're just going to kill them.
Yep. Well, that's the way they work in that country. And if
Well, that's a lot of countries.
Yeah, it is.
Our country maybe should have some stricter laws instead of we have prisons where they get the newest computers and they get this. Why are we giving them this luxury living?
yeah.
I'm just curious.
It's-
Why isn't that money going to the vets who fought a war?
Yep. I agree with you.
Why
100%.
are we? I mean, I think can they even Facebook now? Prisoners, there's so many
No.
things they can do. I'm sure they have gyms.
I think it depends on the prison, but probably not. I don't think they're allowing that yet. Welcome to the show. It looks like Jesse T.
Hey, man, what's happening?
Everything's good, man. How you doing?
Real good. Great show, you guys.
Well, we're just talking about stuff that in trying to give a perspective on it. And the question of the show or the theme of the show today is why? Why does things happen the way they do? Why do people think the way they think? Why do they do the things that they do? It's that hard question of why.
Because they're designed to do that over generations.
Yeah, the media, I think, brainwashes you
No,
too.
it's not the media. The media,
I
the
think it
media
is.
an extension of human beings to control and dominate for an adverse or an adversarial reason, to create chaos so that the money can transfer without it having to be taken.
And that's
see,
not the media doing that.
No, the media are controlled by people. It's controlled by people. Who
Oh,
make a
I know that,
specific
but
choice.
if we didn't have
So
to
you
hear
can't-
every day what the media has to say, we wouldn't know all this. And it's
and,
constantly.
and if we lived in Adam and Eve's time, we could all run around naked and not have any shame. But that's not the reality. The reality is this: is that they are controlling and have been controlling since the dawn of man and woman. Okay, and that's the issue. Now we can control it instead of the Roman Catholic Church after Rome, who controlled the domination of the Dark Ages in education and language, mythology and folklore that was created to control the masses. All right, technology has become the spiritual religion of the planet Earth. It's become a social, engineered, technologically based society where all we do are dominated by images, by the images that come through our eyes, not our brains, not our ears, not our touch, not our smells, not
Well,
our
where are
taste.
these images coming from?
They're coming from people who have designed and made it a choice to show
So
us the
isn't
things
that? Don't
and
you
to
think
allow.
that's more the media? I mean, every time
No, once again,
if
you're
you-
lost. You're
No,
lost.
I'm not lost.
It's not the
I'm
media.
not lost.
It's not the media. It's not
well,
the media.
that's where I
It's
hear
who
it all,
controls
and
the
that's
media.
what depresses
Yeah, but
me.
who controls the media? Does a cow sitting in the pasture in North Dakota control the media? Does an elephant
you know what?
running through Africa control? No. Who controls the media is a human being.
Right, but
And these are choices
Well,
that are
of
being
course,
made.
the media is a human
The
being.
media has nothing to do
So,
with it.
oh yes,
What
it
has to
does.
do with it? Oh, what
I
has to
think
do
the
with it
media
is the
has plenty to do
domination,
with it.
what you want to be released to
you
your
know what, guys?
family.
I think both of you are right. I think Jesse T is a talk show host here on the Power Voices. His show is live at 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and he has a different perspective and a unique viewpoint, if you will, of how things work. I agree with you, Jesse, and I agree with you, Carol, that I think you're both right. Carol is looking at it from a layman's point of view, as the average person would. We typically don't understand the humans that are running the media outlets and the agenda that they may have and is projected through what is broadcast. That's a whole thing in itself. I think I guess my question, Jesse, based on what you just laid out, what is the solution from your point of view?
It's a news cycle that's happening right now. It's a news cycle to sell newspapers, and the old cliche of the day. The headline
Right.
gets the client to come in and pay the dime, 25 cents, a buck and a half. For
That's
the
always
paper.
been right.
Okay, it's a news cycle, and the news cycle is right now coinciding with presidential campaigns of both parties. Okay, which they're governed by one anyway, and that's the money, the corporate enthusiasts and aristocracy. But it's the news cycle. So in the news cycle, that's what we're going through. You see, the police are our heroes. The police in this country, in the United States of America, are the greatest service-oriented force the world has ever seen. A world in this country without police, we would be anarchy in the streets. And this 18th Street, in the Bloods, the biker mongrels, the Vargos, and the Hells Angels, and any other Russian mafia, Armenia mafia, the Asian Tongs, the mafia, they would be running the cartels. They would be running our streets. That would not be a world that we would want to live in. If you travel to any country outside this country, and you spent any time anywhere in some other person's country, you will see how that plays out every single day. This country have that. We're ruled by the law. We're governed by the law. The problem is, and the issue is that because of the technology being released, they're controlling a swath of people. They don't really care about the color, the religion, the age, where you're from. It's the ability to control the people and direct them into a direction they want to go through the emotional capacities of their soul. They tap into the strings of the heart. You see, and we are humans. We emote. We have compassion. We cry. A tiger doesn't cry. An alligator doesn't cry, at least scientifically that we know about. A plant doesn't cry, but we do. So we have an emotional caring in us. And that's what they tap into. And here's why. They have to. It's a very small selected group of people that control the planet. They have to. It always has been that way. The dominators and the dominated. It's always been that way. Now, understanding that just basic philosophy, the answer is really this. You have to rebuff what you're seeing. You have to look at things in a way and say, you know something? Yeah, okay, that cop did that, but what about the other 100,000 registered gang members in the city of Los Angeles? What about the cartels that are now trafficking little boys and girls under the age of 16 for amorous and money?
But
human trafficking.
Jesse, you're right, and all of that is being done by our police and military and what have you. But we don't have a perfect system, and I think that's the cry from the streets, in America right now. We still we don't have a perfect situation. Hold your point there for a second. We've got another caller here, Guy calling in from Atlanta. Welcome to the show, Guy.
Hey, thankfully, appreciate it.
Yeah.
And hi, Carol. How are you?
Good.
Look,
How are you?
I'm great. Look, Jesse has some valid points. However, I'm with Carol on the media controlling what's being spewed and heaped on on people as a whole. As far as music goes, as far as the news cycle goes, that's all. I mean, you have to. It's systemic, and you have to clean that up. The other thing is that as far as look, police there are a lot of good cops out here, and there are a few bad cops out here too. And let's just deal with the problem and I think until we have a conversation or some kind of dialogue as far as police go, when it comes to dealing with the black communities the communities in which they serve, it's a fact. It's a fact. I'm talking about statistics. They don't lie. And people get hung up on Black Lives Matter, and I think a lot of positive things are getting gobbled up because people are getting hung up on all lives matter. Well, nobody ever said only Black Lives Matter. Nobody ever said only Black Lives Matter.
Right.
It's a fact, and statistically, it is a fact that blacks are killed by white policemen statistically. And when we talk about statistics, and then you get the O'Reillys and Sean Hannity saying, "Well, wait a minute. There are more blacks being killed by blacks than white." We're not talking about that. We're talking about the people who are paid to protect and serve their communities. We're not talking about, as far as that goes, I could tell you that more whites kill whites than blacks.
Right.
That's
So
true.
that's a fact. That's a fact. So let's not get those mixed up and thrown in the mix, because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about white police officers killing more black people when they're in their custody than white people. That's a fact, and you can't get away from it until we have a conversation about that and how we train the police officers to do a better job when it comes to that.
Right.
Let's talk about that. Let's get that cleared up, and let's not throw in, well, hey, I mean, how many white people killed black people in Chicago? I'm not talking about how many black people killed white people in Chicago, how many black people killed black people in Baton Rouge. I'm talking about police officers around the country when it comes to black and white. If it's a white officer, things are happening to black people that don't happen to white people. Just
That's
like the guy
so
that killed,
true.
Just like the guy that killed Dylan Roof, who killed 9 members of a church in Carolina. Okay, he was taken to Burger King with a bulletproof vest.
That's right.
I submit to you, there is not a Negro on this planet that will go to Burger King
Or
with
a Native
bulletproof vest,
American.
or a Native American, or any person of color that will go to Burger King with a bulletproof vest.
And
That's
you
a
know
fact.
what? And they always say, well, he was mental. Well, I think anybody that mass kills, it's something wrong with you mentally.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
your points are very well made, Guy. I agree with you, because if you don't look out for you, who's going to look out for you?
Right.
And
I think we got to have that conversation. We got to have that and stay on point. Let's not go off to the side with, well, wait a minute. I don't want. Let's talk about this. This is where the problem is.
Right. And
This is where the problem is.
When that happens, Guy, that you just explained, when people throw in other things, that becomes a distraction. It tries to take the wind out of your sail. Another problem is, whenever you get a movement, a voice that's being heard, many times other third-party things happen, and it impacts on that positive energy that's moving forward. And that's what we're seeing right now with the Black Lives Matters movement. And it's being hijacked. It's like the Muslim faith has been hijacked by many radicals.
Yes.
Same thing with anything, really, can get hijacked. And unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with.
Right. And we talked about Donald Trump. Look at Donald Trump. I've watched his whole campaign throughout. I mean, since he's been running.
Right.
And at his rallies, when he said, "Remember the good old days? That guy would be carried out on a stretcher." Are you serious? Are you serious? The kind of Lester Maddox foolishness that's being spewed by a presidential candidate. Are you serious? And
that's
this
a
guy
problem.
This is the nominee for the Republican Party.
What's your view on that, Jesse T?
Gentleman said a lot I could talk about for hours and be in full objection towards a lot of that he said, but I'll do that at another time. But in terms of the presidential campaign, my point has always been this. Out of 320 million Americans walking on our country's land, out of the ones that have the ability to become president, of age and education, of wealth or whatever, these two individuals are the best that we can come up with. You got two individuals that each of them I wouldn't have at my dinner table.
But the people,
okay?
The people
It
have put
doesn't
them
matter.
there.
And here's what the people did not put them there.
Well, the people that went to vote
People
during the
did not,
primary.
because they were given 17 choices that were just as bad. And they
Well-
were given 3 other choices on the other side that were just as bad.
Okay,
see,
but
When
again,
hey, if I present you with, at a football game, if I present you with 10 flat footballs, and there's no other footballs to play with, and I say pick which one you like, you're going to pick one that might have a green stripe versus one that has a yellow stripe. But the bottom line, they're all.
well,
you see,
but whose
here's the
fault is
thing.
that? I mean, if there's better candidates, why didn't they
Right.
step up?
There's a reason for not having better candidates.
What's that reason?
They're manipulated and controlled by the corporate aristocracy that rules the planet Earth, guys.
So-
the 500 top corporations of the world place everything the way we see it, the way we use it, the way we feel about things, everything. We're manipulated from birth, from womb to death. We are manipulated.
So,
and we don't see the ground. It's the Matrix, totally.
so there's no hope.
There is no hope. The only hope here's the only hope, is that enough people can realize that they have been manipulated, strip themselves of that, and be a pure soul and understand that you aren't born black. You aren't born white. You aren't born brown. You aren't born native. You aren't born Asian. You aren't born with 3 polka dots and 4 trunks and 14 legs. You are born a corporeal spirit, a human being that should love and have compassion and empathy for each other by the essence of our humanity. That's been taken away
Well, I
from
don't
us.
think it's
Yeah,
us so
listen,
much when you say empathy. Please give me a break.
All of that stuff is learned.
Well, you know what? It's
Oh,
obvious
okay.
you're white, I gather.
No,
Come
forget
and
about
live
that.
in
You
some
wanna
of
take a
some of
racist
our.
that has nothing
Well,
to
I
do
am
with-
taking it that away.
I am
I'm sorry.
white, brown.
You
Look,
don't. You don't live.
I am your
I
typical
watched my
American.
son.
Hold on,
I'm
let's-
no,
let's-
No,
I'm,
he
I'm
needs to-
Mexican, I'm Spanish,
Let's talk
I'm
one at a
Italian,
time.
I'm German, I'm Scot, I'm Irish, and I'm French. I am your typical American. I'm a back alley mutt that's got so much crap DNA in me. I'm the poster child for a mud pie. Okay,
Not
so
with me,
so
Paul.
you know so don't take it there. It has nothing to do with your color. You've been indoctrinated from birth to feel a certain way about how you feel about things, and then it becomes generational down the line.
So-
generation after
Just gotta
generation.
let other people talk.
Jesse, let me say this.
And I'll shut up.
And I agree with you that we're spirits. I agree. That's a fact. However, I'm also not naive. I'm not that naive where I know for a fact that if Alton Sterling would have told those 2 corn-fed police officers that jumped on top of him that he was a spirit, he is a living, breathing spirit, that wouldn't have kept him alive. That wouldn't have kept him alive. And what the conversation we need to have is how can we train or get these police officers that have that kind of venom in them to treat black citizens the way they do. We've got to have that conversation, because the conversation you're having is I think you're passionate about it. And I think you're sincere about it. However, that's not going to help. That's not going to help these cops. We're talking about cops who are killing black citizens at an alarming rate. We have to have that conversation, and the conversation that you're talking about, that's in a perfect world.
How many black citizens do police officers not kill at an alarming rate? that are
we're
that
talking
are
about
that,
now. That's another conversation, Jesse.
Yeah, that's
Now you're that's a totally different conversation.
that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do, Jesse.
Right.
It's
Well, right.
but
That's right.
let me just say this.
They're supposed to do that.
Let me just
But
say this for
but-
for the sake of this conversation. When you accept the job as a police officer, you know that it's not a pretty job. It's not going to be a job that you're going into your office and answer a few phone calls and selling a product or service to someone. It's not that kind of job. You know that when you put that badge on and you go through the training, you put the gun on your hip and you drive around in that car, you are going to face danger. Okay? Now, those are givens. That's a constant. That's a guarantee. That's what the job is. Now, to do that job effectively, it seems to me that there should be a certain amount of compassion, caution, and concern when you step out there to deal with each case on a case-by-case basis. And I think that we need to have a little different level of sensitivity in how we approach certain things. And when we see videos when people, sometimes black, that are treated fairly, a clean arrest with no incident, no physical problems, and then you see situations where white people are treated a little differently. I mean, it goes both ways. We see these videos all the time, all over the internet. The problem is when you see the gross neglect against people, and certain people, especially people of color, that's when the alarm goes off and the concern comes out. And that's the issue that people are trying to bring to the forefront and address. You can't ignore the fact that this does happen. And I think bottom line, it's not the way you treat humans. Okay? Dogs get better treatment than some of these arrests that I've seen. And when a cop, they're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen. Can we reduce the amount of mistakes? I believe absolutely. Can we work better between the police departments, the police officers, and the community? Absolutely. Is there work that needs to be done on both sides? Absolutely. How do we get there? That's what I'm looking for, that conversation.
I'll tell you this. Everybody needs training.
Absolutely.
Training never stops. It starts at day one and goes on the rest of your life. And when you join the police force, you constantly are training for every situation, every scenario. The bigger police agencies like New York and Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, they train more because they have the facilities and they have the money and they have the ability to train more and more and more and more and more. The smaller police agencies train within their budget. They train within what they have the resources to do. But training has to be consistent, and it always is. Los Angeles City Police Department, the LA City Police Department, is probably one of the finest trained-up police departments in the world. In fact, all around the world, they come to the LA City to learn training techniques in advanced psychological, philosophical, sociological, spiritual, hardcore techniques, how to approach, how not to approach, what to say, where to stand, what not to look for, what not to be nervous about. They have the finest shooting rooms, they have the finest technology for preparation. All these police forces don't have that. In LA, the police officers, a large number of them reflect the population demographic in Los Angeles now. 35 years ago, 40 years ago, that demographic and racial mixture was different.
Right.
Now, in the city of Los Angeles, that demographic and that racial mix-up, spiritual, religion, whatever, is vastly different than it was 35 years ago. So they're reflective of the community that they're policing in. Now, when you start looking at those things...
And I agree,
absolutely.
and that's the way it should be.
And that's the way it should be. Now, can it be in Baton Rouge? Can it be in Jacksonville? Can it be in Fairbanks, Alaska? Can it be in Connecticut? Yeah, it can be. Absolutely. So training has to be consistent, and it has to continue. But I just pose the argument that, and I always come back to this, is that
part of the way that we react amongst each other, and how we go through our day, flowing through the cosmopolitan United States of America, and how we do that with people. We, in the last 50 years, certainly since the end of World War II,
Right.
we humans, we citizens, have been trained a certain way too.
Yeah. No question.
Okay, and through the Korean era, the Vietnam era, through the era of the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, we've been trained a certain way too, both on every level: literature, music, film, visual, religion, peer group, whatever, education. So it's not only that the police have to be trained. When you start pointing your finger, you got three fingers pointing back at you. You have to be trained too. You see,
Yeah.
that's the problem. This is the argument I always pose. You're talking about a one-sided system here. The police, for the most part in our country, do a fantastic job.
And I don't think
Okay.
anybody's saying they're doing in a whole a bad job. As
Right.
with anything, can it get better? Should we have better relationships? Can we improve upon what's going on? That's I think that's
we
what
citizens-
that's what I'm hearing.
We citizens have to improve our conduct
I agree.
and our behavior amongst ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, therein lies a part of the root of the problem. Okay, we are and that's where the manipulation comes in that weakness right there that we have allowed ourselves to be directed in a certain way. So the reaction and the action, takes its natural path, whatever that path is going to be. Okay.
So okay, you're right.
I lived in L.A. Back in the 70s. In the 70s, when Tom Bradley was mayor, and worked at K-Day, I remember.
Whoa, wait.
No, cut me off. I worked at K-Day too. Okay. Listen.
And so did
worked
I.
there- I worked there when Tom Bradley was mayor, and I remember Richard Pryor doing a joke. I am reaching in my glove compartment for my license and my registration because I don't want to be an accident.
Right.
Let me tell you something. LA didn't change because they were so well trained as they are today. They changed because of the things that happened to black people at that time when Tom Bradley was mayor. They changed because the people. Darrell Gates was the chief of police back in the 80s. I mean, and horrible things used to happen to black citizens in L.A. Not the things that they don't happen today, but that's because people changed those.
Well,
It
all
wasn't.
things used to happen to Latinos too.
I'm talking
Absolutely.
about people of color.
Still
I'm
does.
talking about people of
Well,
color.
a
I'm talking
Latino
about
is a
people
person
of color. Right. I'm talking about all people of color. Okay, and that didn't happen
That's the
to white
dialogue
citizens.
right there.
Right.
That's the dialogue. It's all people.
That's all. Right.
All people
Right.
have had it. My father went down to Florida in 1940 on his way to Cuba. He got picked up by the Florida Police Department, him and his partner, two Italian guys from Chicago. Okay, my father happens to be darker than the black asphalt on the street. He's a dark Italian guy. The other guy was a light-skinned Italian guy, almost like a white boy with blonde hair. Okay, and he got off. My father was left on the chain gang and went through 30 days, every day in a lineup, hoping and praying that he wasn't fingered. He wasn't. They let him go. They said, boy, don't come back here anymore. We don't like you. My father hasn't been back to Florida in 60 years. So what I'm saying is I totally understand it. But I totally, it's all people of color. It's all people. Because we're all color. We all people. You see, it's people. And you're right, under Tom Bradley. I was 10 years old in 1970, living in Los Angeles. I know. I interviewed Gates and Bradley as I got older. Okay, here's the point. You're absolutely right. It's the people that got together to force a change, but the mass immigration that changed Los Angeles forced the issue in the 1980s and the 1990s that the LAPD had to change.
Yep.
Had to change to relate
Right.
to
Because
the
there were
customer
problems.
base. To the
Right.
customer base. Let's look at it as a business.
They
Right.
had to relate to the customer base. If you walk into
Right.
my store today and I don't speak Spanish and you do, I lost a sale. Okay? So here's the point. The point, you're right. And this is what I've said. Not only do the police have to be trained, but we citizens have to be trained too in a different pattern than what we're doing. Because you can't be one-sided in the training. You can't be. And that's my argument always, is that we as a citizen base in this country have lost our way. We've lost an ideology and an understanding. And we've got to get back to it. And if we get back to it as a people, without color, just as a people, a mass iceberg of people, we can force this country, because this country was based on the ideology it's the people's country and not the selected few. And this is why I don't like government. I think it's corrupt, and I don't like the big corporations. I think they're corrupt, and I don't like big religion. I think it's corrupt.
I think we can pretty much all agree on that. You know,
Right.
but I think that what we have to do, and I think both have painted a very clear picture. When Guy mentioned back in the 70s when things were not so good with police relations here in Los Angeles, it got better because people complained, because there were
Right.
a lot of things that were going down and were not cool. And it was brought to the forefront. There was no internet back in those days, but through the local media and protest and people being vocal, those things changed. The balance of the police department, it made it reflect what Los Angeles looked like. There were more Latinos brought on the force, there were more blacks that were brought on the force, and they patrolled the neighborhoods differently. Now, is it a perfect situation today? No. Is it better than it was then? Yes. So we still have work to do. Even here in Los Angeles, who has a bigger budget than Beaumont or Baton Rouge or a small town. The bottom line is there's work to do. There's more sensitivity training that needs to be had, and that there should be groups, meetings, better media coverage, a bridge between the people and the people that are supposed to protect and serve. Here's my concern, and I want to throw this out for discussion. We all know over the past, let's say, 20 years, we have gone through various wars in the Middle East. We have a lot of current military people and vets that were in these wars. They saw some horrific, horrible things. They had to participate in taking lives away from other humans. They're now back into the civilian world. It's like the last two people that killed the cops in Dallas and in Baton Rouge. On the police department, we have former military people as well. We all know, Army, Marine especially, are trained to be what? Killers, to take lives in war. My question is, when we leave the military, how are we decompressed or deprogrammed to get back into the real world so that we can separate what we just went through, what we experienced, the basic training and all of that we went through, to come back to being normal humans and melt back into the society? And those same guys that were ex-military are now police officers. What is being done to deprogram them to protect and serve and not making them killers first? That's the
I'll chime in
question.
on that real quick, because then I got to jump. But since the end of World War II, and transportation back to the motherland, the country, has been very quick and efficient. In prior decades and centuries, warriors had a time to decompress on their way home. It just took a long time to get from one place to another. But since transportation, communication, and technology, once again, has gotten to the point where we can jump on a jet and be, back home in 7 hours, right from the battlefront. That has always been a challenge since the end of World War II. Even in World War II, they had about 6 months to 9 months getting on the ship, getting across the ocean,
Yeah.
coming back home, getting their bearings straight and what have you. But but as Korea happened and Vietnam happened, and then all the engagements from then on till now, they're home in a matter of hours, if they're not physically wounded. So in that respect, the issue is the corruption of the Veterans Administration. The lady was just arrested. Well, not arrested, but she resigned. The head of the VA. It's just a sign of the corruption of the United States government and its departments that are supposed to be taking care of these types of things. The Social Security is the same way. That's another topic for another day. But it's the corruption. If you have corruption at the head, the corruption at the end is going to be there as well in greater number. So we have to clean the VA with the corruption ideology and the corruptness that it has. But still, the technology is going to bring these boys and girls home real quick.
Well, that's
So
a problem.
There has to be some place to decompress them. That takes money. So you got to get rid of the corruption so you can release some funds. So there's that 1 and 1 right there that equals 2. It's going to be a very difficult challenge, and unless we can set something up, like at the end of World War II when FDR placed it in to start, and Truman followed up, and Eisenhower did too. These were the presidents of the United States there after World War II. The Veterans Bill, the GI Bill. They came home. They could get a free education wherever they stopped off, 6th grade, 8th grade, whatever. They could get an education. Number one. Number two, they had full health care for themselves, and if they got married and had children, they had full health care until they got a job. And they had a job. We rebuilt the world because we destroyed the world. Now, that's another topic there for another day as to the reason why we did that. But the corporations rebuilt the world. They had to hire manpower in America that was being educated and the assembly lines, and we retooled the whole world. Okay, there was those jobs. They had pensions. They could buy a house with no money down on a low-interest loan. They built millions of homes around America preceding the next 15 years after World War II. These things were set in place for our 7 million GIs, men and women, coming back from the theater of war. Okay,
Right.
We don't have that today in the same way. We do have that. I sell real estate for 36 years. I'm a broker. I do loans for 20. We have that, but it's not utilized in the same way. See, that's the thing.
Why is it
Because of the corruption. The corruption at the top, the corruption is it's so hard. It's so bad. And the parameters that they set up going downstream, it makes it impossible for a vet to be able to buy a house in L.A. County unless he wants to live in Mojave Desert.
Well, you know what?
Okay.
That's an economic issue, and I agree with you 100%. And I think the Veterans Administration for years, even First World War, Second World War, I think it could have been better then because, we've always had problems with our military guys coming back and melting back into our society. Many of them during World War II, as I remember, coming back, they ended up being alcoholics. And same thing with the Vietnam.
And you tell the story of your friend from Vietnam.
Right.
Jumped under the table
Yeah.
every time he heard a big sound in a nightclub or whatever.
That's right.
And that's an intrinsic problem that the warrior is always going to have. Now, how we deal with that is we have to cut the corruption. We have to make these programs that are already in existence in the VA, not creating
Make 'em better.
new programs, make them work again.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's the key. And then our society, once again, is different. We have to stop thinking in terms of violence. It's rooted in us, and I'm going to leave on this point. Sorry, I got to go. Got to go make some money.
Go sell some houses.
Yeah, that's right. So here it is. Violence in music, violence in cartoons, violence in our movies, violence in our literature, the pornography on the internet, the systematic destruction of God in this country. I don't care what you call your God, Islam, Buddha, Taoism, Hindi. It doesn't make any difference to me. You can call it the Rock of Gibraltar. I really don't care. But the destruction of the God element in this country, the destruction of the American family, the destruction through divorce, the destruction through our humanity, amongst each other, courtesy, manners, thankfulness, gratefulness, respectfulness, honor, ethic, and morality has all been placated in my lifetime of 55 years.
Right.
And that's got to stop. And I don't really think it can. I think
Well,
I agree with him.
but I'm going to go down fighting, brother. I'm going to go down fighting to make it work.
I am too. Because that is the root problem of the whole. Because this country was built on that.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a serious problem. You know, that's a serious problem.
Well, listen, Jesse, thanks for calling in. And by the way, Jesse, that you just heard from, is on at 5 p.m. Pacific, Monday through Friday, right here on the same station, thepowerofvoices.com. So check him out this afternoon, 5 p.m. Pacific. And
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good day, man.
All right.
Keep
make
that money, man.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Make that money, man.
Jesse better have my money.
Better have my money.
He's a character, and he's
Right.
he's very opinionated and has his viewpoint on things. And I'm going to make sure that there's a police officer outside of his door to arrest his wild ass when he walks out today, because he's out there, man.
Right.
He's
Hey,
out
look,
there.
Look, I had a cop. I had a cop stop me when I was working K-Day, and he said he asked. I heard him so much. He asked me if I had ever been. Have you ever been in the service? I said no, sir. You know, I mean, I was stirring him so much. I was stirring him so much. Look, he said, who's the mayor? I said Tom Bradley. He said, say Uncle Tom Bradley. I said, yeah,
That's
man.
too funny.
Yeah, man. I was blown away. Yeah, man.
Here's a problem I'm wrestling with, and I'll bring it up again. I'm concerned that we have too many trained killers from the military on the streets that are disgruntled. They're feeling they have no place in our society. They're struggling getting jobs, and some of them are employed, but they still haven't gotten the mental repair that's needed to help them transition from military life, trained killers, to being compassionate husbands, wives, fathers, daughters, grandparents, et cetera, to get back to some normalcy. And we have those same people that are now police officers. So I'm concerned that when we see the police, and I'm talking about the situations that we question, when we see a police officer standing over you and they pump 6 shots into you, when you're on the ground, you've got one cop on top of you, another one got his hand on your neck. I don't understand why it's necessary to take life at that point. And that's what I hear the people in this country complaining about. The question is why? And why can't we get to a different place in dealing with these situations, keep them from being confrontational? That's where I am. That's what I see. That's what I hear. And I think that's the root of the problem. That's why we see Black Lives Matter. That's why I see people saying all lives matter. I think that is the problem. We've got to bridge that gap. And I don't have all the solutions. I don't have the answer to the question on that, but I know we need to work in that direction.
I agree.
And I think the president kind of laid that out as well.
Yeah.
We've got to have respect for each other, respect for life, and not be so quick to take somebody else's life. And that statement, that comment from me comes in a general context, meaning whether it's black on black, brown on brown, white on white, white against black, life in general. When you take someone's life, that's the end. It's not a movie that person can get up and wipe away the fake blood and get up and go home and have dinner with his family. It's over. That's the end of the movie. It can't be recut. The outcome is never going to be different. The heart stops beating. The brain is dead. It's over. Finished business. It's over. So I want to hope and pray that we can get to that space that we can look at that, consider that before we pull a trigger or stick a knife in someone or run over somebody or whatever the situation is, or strap bombs to yourself, walk into a public place and blow up everybody, including yourself. That's where we got to get to that place.
Hey, look, man, call the mayor of Baton Rouge.
Yeah, let's hook that
show.
up. Yeah, I got your message
yeah.
on that. Let's do that.
Yeah,
Can we make that happen for
Yeah.
tomorrow?
yeah. Let's do that.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Because we got to have some dialogue. We got to
Right.
get to the people, and then allow the listeners, to be heard as well. They got to chime
Right.
in. Well, thanks, Guy, for
All right.
calling in, man. Appreciate it as usual. Guy Brody,
Thank you, man.
professional
Thank you.
broadcaster and friend of mine, who listens to the show every day. Did you get that check I sent you for listening?
I think it must be hung up, but I'm expecting it
Yeah.
any day now.
The check is
Any
in the
day
mail.
now.
Don't worry about it. It's
All
coming.
right.
Don't
Okay.
cash it though.
See, Carol, you know what? I'm going to lock the door and not let you in no more. So, what an interesting dialogue. I mean, Jesse T brings a whole different, sometimes twisted view on things. He's I'm not going to say he's a conspiracy theorist, but his idea about the Illuminati, if you will, is very prevalent, in his mindset. And, I'm not going to discount and say it doesn't exist. Alfo, welcome to the show.
Lee, how are you this afternoon?
I'm great, man. How you doing? How you been?
I am just struggling with all of the same problems, but I guess the sun's going to shine anyway.
Okay, well, that's a good thing.
Lee, let me just chime in on this. I heard one of your callers, not the last guy before that,
Uh-huh.
he spoke about the country being founded on Christianity. This country was founded on rape, theft, murder, slavery. This country was founded on every anti-Christian
Thank you.
meme you want to put out there. Don't start talking about peace and tranquility after they've shot and killed multiple black people. And
Native Americans too.
in our face, the judges and the politicians and the prosecutors turn around and give them a free pass. They say, pass along, there's nothing to see here. They're talking about the two shooters, the one in Dallas and the one in Baton Rouge. But I have yet to hear the story of Lauren Aarons, one of the dead policemen in Dallas, who had the Iron Cross on his right ring finger, who had a neo-Nazi shield tattoo on his left forearm. Now, Dallas is a city with hot, short-sleeve shirts for the cops. You mean to tell me nobody in the brass saw these racist, Nazi, white supremacist tattoos this man was wearing? And no news media has brought it up.
Interesting. I had not noticed that. But so the point, does that speak volume about the character? But at the same time, did he deserve to lose his life because he went on a police call? So I have compassion for anyone who goes through any loss of life. I feel sorry for his or her family. But, and many times when someone is arrested and say, well, he was a problem child, he had been arrested before and all that. But as you pointed out, very rarely do we look at the history and the record of the police officers. Now, the police officer, I understand that shot Alton.
So does that mean it's okay to kill him?
No, it doesn't. I just said that. But, the officer that shot Alton Sterling, apparently that's not the first time he's used his gun. Now, I understand that the person that he shot before, and I don't know what that person was, and it doesn't matter, didn't die. But What type of training, sensitivity training, did this guy go through? Is he one of the cops that is a little too quick in pulling the trigger? And did you have to, excuse me, shoot the guy 6 times while he's laying on his back and another cop is on top of him? These are the questions that I hear and concerns coming from the people that are protesting.
Well,
And these things need to be addressed.
let me put it like this, Lee. We speak about a compassion. We are compassionate people. But even leather wears out. People are tired. And I got to tell you, a couple of days before the Dallas shooting, I raised the question, is it time to shoot first or shoot back? And this comes after hundreds of people were simply murdered by the police. I mean, it gets to a point where you sit and tap, what will radicalize black people faster? These young black people, they're not going to take it. What's going to radicalize them quicker than injustice without transparency or consequences?
Let me
Just don't.
Yeah, it's a good thought. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you have any concerns over many of the police officers that we have on our police force nationwide are former military people? And when we see the last 2 military shooters, people saying, well, they were crazy and blah, 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 blah. Why can't we think that maybe some of our police officers are suffering from the same problem?
Absolutely. The 2006 report from the FBI raised concerns about the Klan and the Nazis and the white supremacists infiltrating the police department, and they have been very successful because they've also infiltrated the prosecutor's office and the courts.
Right, the judges.
You look at Lee, when I say that, I simply say this. Look at how many judges were exposed texting racist things about the black president.
Mm-hmm.
How many prosecutors? That prosecutor down in Florida, Angela, whatever her name was,
Yes.
that prosecuted Zimmerman.
Right.
The prosecutor's office simply threw the case. There are many lawyers who said they did not have to raise those questions, and those questions were raised to keep Zimmerman off from testifying.
Mm-hmm.
So she tanked that case. And when you see situations like that, it makes you stop. It gives you pause to take matters into your own hands, and that's what we're seeing. They want to talk about the 2 shooters. But what about all the police on the police department who are also military veterans?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the issue that I brought up earlier. And we got to think about it on both sides of the fence, man, because if I'm suffering from some kind of, fear and the overexposure that I had in the military and war, what is the difference between what I'm going through and what a police officer who's now on the police force, supposedly protecting and serving me and innocent people? So I think there's a sensitivity level that we need to look at when it comes to that.
Well, the police officer has the advantage because he can continue to play out his game of what's the name of the game? Armed warfare, warcraft. He
Right.
can continue to play out warcraft on civilians.
That's true.
The police departments have been militarized, and they are simply over the top with so-called law enforcement. It's not about de-escalation. It's about total,
Mm-hmm.
I would say, abuse.
Right.
Because, I mean, let's face it, they don't care, Lee. And if you're looking on at the Facebook post, I'll put that particular story up for you.
Okay.
Because to me it's obvious. To me it's a malfeasance in journalism. This is why journalism is dead. Because if you got this kind of story out there that was so easily found by normal journalists.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how does it evade the scrutiny of a mainstream media?
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
we got a host of issues, and technology with the cell phones and Facebook Live, you can stream from anywhere. Same thing on YouTube, and you can link it to Twitter and Instagram and all over the place. You can create your own broadcast network, if you will, in a matter of a few seconds and get information out of what you're seeing at that moment. So I think that's changing the dynamics of the world. And, we've got to be mindful of that. At the same time, we've got to be honest and fair at the same time to keep from creating chaos. Joining us here, hang on, don't go away, Alpha. We got one of your favorite guys to join us. It's, ladies and gentlemen, Spy Boy. Was that a good enough intro for you, Spy?
I like the alarm better.
You like the alarm better? Okay, I got to find that alarm. I'll work on that. What's happening? What's on your mind?
Oh man, your show has been so concentrated there with information that I don't know where to begin. But I'll begin with this: that the cops are not the problem. The problem is the crime in the community in which they serve. The police are reacting to problems. They aren't causing problems.
Well, I agree with you about 50% of what you just said. Certainly, and I've said this repeatedly, there's work to be done on both sides, the community as well as the cops. I mean, my lying eyes are not lying to me when I see cops escalating a situation when they didn't have to. When I see a cop coming up to an individual and ask him his name, and he gives them his name, and they say, well, you're not that person. I have a warrant for your arrest. And then they, manhandle the guy because the guy's standing his ground. He says, hey, man, that's not me. I don't have a problem. I've already been to my probation officer, and I'm good. And this is a video I saw online. They grabbed the guy. They manhandled him. They may have tased him. I'm not 100% sure on that. But they got him on the hood of the car. They pull out his ID, and they see it's not the guy they're looking for. Never during that video, from the time that they walked up to the car, did they ask him for his ID. They told him to get out of the car and put his hands behind his back, and that's all they were interested in arresting this guy. So they made a mistake. The guy ends up going to court, getting busted on some other trumped-up charges and spending 7 years of his life in jail for a mistake that the cops made. So when you see those kind of things, that breaks the trust between the community and the cops. And unfortunately, some people react when they're confronted by a police officer, and they may overreact, just like the police officers overreact in certain situations. So my recommendation is let's bring the level down by at least 50%. Show some compassion, some concern, ask the right questions, respond appropriately, and I would love to see that we, people of color, black folks, brown folks, wouldn't have to give instructions to our children that are special out of fear that they may say the wrong thing and get arrested for nothing or be killed by a cop because you might ask questions. I've been stopped by a cop. And when I ask questions, they get upset. I'm the police officer. You don't ask me any questions, that kind of stuff. And I have a right as a citizen to ask questions.
Well, for them, you don't.
Well, but see, that's wrong. That's
So
wrong,
I
especially
teach
if I'm
my
not.
son to just say yes, sir, no,
Well,
sir.
but that's fine.
Don't
but
reach in your glove box. Put your
I
hands
don't-
outside the window.
Yeah, and that's the special instructions that I'm talking about. We shouldn't have to go there to earn the respect from a cop.
Why not?
Why?
Why not have to ask
Why?
special instructions of
Why?
Because they
If I'm
require
not doing
special
anything
instructions.
wrong, why should I have to go to the level of being fearful
Because
that the cop
person
might
that
do
you're
something to
talking
me?
Is invested by the law. Is given powers by the law.
And
to
sometimes
kill you
that power
if
is
necessary.
misused and abused.
And they will be adjudicated at a
Not
proper time
always.
for that.
I just gave you an example where they arrested a young man and now he's in jail because they trumped up charges, resisting arrest and all that kind of
Wait,
stuff.
what's the trumped up charge?
Resisting arrest. There was no reason for the arrest. They had the wrong guy. So why not?
So
Why,
how come he,
why
how
not?
come he could, if he
why-
knew he was the wrong guy, how come he couldn't?
He
have,
said that. He said
de-escalated?
that repeatedly, but they didn't want to take his word, and they took it to another level, and they didn't have to. They
Lee,
never.
I'm not calling you a
Hey,
liar.
hey, listen. Hey, listen.
I have my doubts.
Hey, listen. If he had said, if the cop had said, "Show me your ID," it would have been over with, but they didn't. All they wanted to do was to snatch him out of the car. He was sitting in his car in his driveway.
Where was this? Where was this?
I don't remember where it was, the physical location, but he was in the driveway at his home,
Probably
sitting
some
in his
high crime
car
area.
on the passenger side.
Probably some high crime area.
It doesn't matter.
On the dark side.
So,
of town.
Spike, does that mean because it's a high crime area, he's not allowed to sit in front of his house in his car?
It explains a lot of
That's
What?
profiling.
why-
That's profiling.
It
That's
explains
saying you're
why-
guilty.
why he was being,
That's
accused of
assuming this
something
guy
that he
was
didn't do in
guilty.
the first place.
No, that's wrong, Spy Boy. That's part of the problem. You
That sounds
can't
like
jump
good
to
police work to me.
conclusions just because you have a badge and a gun on your side. You can't do
act
that.
On hunches. You act on hunches.
No, they didn't approach the situation properly. They didn't ask the right questions. They asked his name. He said, "My name is Patrick," and they were looking for somebody else. They didn't say, "Show me your ID, sir." Okay, he kept saying, "My name." That's not me, man.
Were the
And these
police
terms
called
about
out, or
the
did
lie
they hunt
about
the guy? Did they hunt the guy down, or the police called to investigate something?
They were looking for this individual, so they were on the patrol, I guess, and they just rolled up on this guy, and they said, "Well, you look like him." They had a picture of the guy that they were looking
So
for.
once again, the
But they
police are
didn't.
responding to an action. The police are not the action. They're responding to an action.
Stop making excuses for bad behavior. I don't give a damn whether they're cops or people in the streets. Bad behavior is
Lee,
bad behavior.
That's all the show has been about is reacting to bad behavior.
No,
Bad
it's not a
behavior by
reaction.
Sterling, bad behavior.
It's
by
not a
the guy in
reaction.
Minnesota, bad behavior by Gardner, bad behavior by a plethora of people who have been killed by the police because their behavior caused them to be in contact with the law.
Where's the mutual respect from the cops to tax-paying human beings? Even if you're not a taxpayer, you're a human.
Is that one of the mottos they put on the side of the door of the car?
Well, they're supposed to protect and serve, right? That's the motto I see on most police cars.
Protect and serve, but it says nothing about mutual respect.
Oh, that's right. You're right, because they've got a gun and a badge, and they have the authority to mistreat you whenever they feel up to it.
Or if they don't
Or-
like how you look, or
That's
they
right.
don't think you should be driving the car you're driving, they automatically come to conclusions that you don't own the car.
Nobody said police work was friendly.
I mean, there's great police out there, but I had a friend that was a policeman, and he quit. And you know why he quit? He said because the force he was on, they would stop young girls and for no reason and scare these girls, and they'd make these girls give them a BJ, or they were going to find a reason, give them a ticket or arrest them for no reason. No, I'm not lying. I have no reason to. I will find some of these police.
It's true.
Come on. It's
true,
the
Spy
truth.
Boy.
It's the truth.
It's true.
I would never sit on here and talk about something I don't know about.
Well, I'm just going to
Alpha's head's about to explode.
I'm just going to
They've actually been got caught doing it. It's been on the news before where other policemen have turned them in, and it's not right. Sometimes police take advantage of that badge, and they're supposed to be totally opposite. They stop you if they don't like how you look. They don't like it if you're driving sometimes through a wealthy area and they don't think you live there. So you can't
So
always.
the next time you need a police officer, call Lil Wody. Call.
I don't have a problem with police.
Hey,
I
Spy
just
Boy.
say some of them aren't nice.
Spy Boy, that's their job, to serve and protect. I'm supposed to call them if I have a problem. And they're supposed to come and deal with it in a professional way. Period.
Stop throwing them out. So stop running them under the bus then.
No. I'm going to run them under the bus. I'm going to call. And if you do something wrong, I'm going to be there and call you out. Bad behavior is bad behavior. Period. And what you're doing, Spy Boy, is making a blanket statement. And you're saying that all cops are great. And they have the authority because of their position as a cop to do whatever they want. I reject that. I say they are no different than me or you or Carol or Alpha, who's on the phone, that we should treat each other with common respect. Because first and foremost, I put on my pants the same way this cop does. And I would expect, and I expect the same respect in return. If I'm being a good citizen, I'm answering your questions, don't try to provoke me into doing something to give you reason to manhandle me, arrest me, or shoot me in my chest. That's what I'm talking about. I should not, at 66 years old, be concerned that I've got to walk the white line so perfect because I'm afraid of the cops.
Well, I want to commend Spy Boy for avoiding the hangman's noose in the tree where he's from. He has spoken this mean since I've known him, and it's only been through conversation. But Spy Boy, keep your head down and keep sliding.
Boom. Spy Boy is speechless.
It's only Alpha can say it, right?
There are only a few moments when Spy Boy becomes speechless.
How do you respond to that though? You know, I mean,
You can't.
What's the response? You can't exactly. So it kind of stands out there on its own like a fungus, you know. Wait for
It's the fungus of truth. It's the fungus of truth, Spy Boy. You want to adore and admire your oppressor because you don't feel oppressed, because you have made some strides, some personal strides yourself in your personal life. Fine. I understand that. But for you to ignore the facts, you are suffering from cognitive dissonance. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. Because you make senseless. Come on, Spy Boy. You make senseless statements. You make unreasonable assumptions. Your whole narrative is from innuendo and hypotheticals and what if this and what if that. It's just frankly unacceptable, man.
I tell you what, it's a lot better than speaking the language of the slave.
I don't understand what you mean.
You just proved my point.
Alpha just called you out on having a slave mentality.
The language of the
the slave, and you just proved my point.
Somewhere,
Oh, this is comical.
Alpha must be on the plantation still picking cotton, sugar, and tobacco.
And that's what he accused you of.
The oppressor.
But Spy Boy, that's what he just accused you of when you became speechless.
You got a cold, boss? We got pneumonia. Come on, Spy Boy.
You know what? I love these shows when you get two guys like this on the phone. Oh, see, and I knew how this movie was going to turn out because I've been in it before. And you got two.
You're getting a catalyst there, all right.
Spy Boy, you always end up the show on a note. I'm not sure if it's high or low, but it's a note.
Well,
Oh,
it's good
Lord.
to hear from you, Spy Boy. It's really good. Good to hear from you.
Alpha, it's always good talking to you, man.
I tell you, Spy Boy, you've reinforced my belief in God protects
Babies and fools.
Yeah.
Pick your category, right? You can only have one, Spy Boy. You can't be in both categories, okay? I love it.
I'll take the fool part.
Okay. Well, he's being honest. Oh, I love it. Well, thank you to both of you for calling in today. My question today was why? Why do we do certain things? Why do we say certain things? Why do certain things exist? Why can't we figure out the solutions to the problems we're faced with as opposed to just chewing on the problem? We need to focus in on solutions to eliminate the problems. We need to go into the creative mode, get out of the survival mode or the status quo mode, because status quo moves nowhere. Let's keep everything the same. And here we are, the first day of the Republican convention in Cleveland.
And
Today,
did you hear about all the naked women?
no, where are they?
This great photographer decided he was going to shoot all these women, and
Oh, no.
I think they shot out somewhere by the convention, but they were all naked.
Nice.
It's
I
a
haven't
piece-
seen a
it's
naked
a
woman in
piece
so
of
long,
art.
I'd probably lose my mind.
No, actually, it's not nasty. They're making a
didn't say that.
statement because of how he feels about women.
Yeah.
Lee, have you ever seen a naked woman?
Yeah, a couple times in my life.
You know what? Anytime I mention naked, anything related to sex, he comes alive.
Me?
No,
A
Spy Boy.
Yeah, the question is, when was the last time you saw one, Spy Boy?
I saw one this morning on the internet. I was looking at
Some porn site?
something like that, I guess, if you want to call it. Yeah, if you have to put a name on it, yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah, okay.
Go to the Huffington Post, and you'll see what this was about.
That's interesting.
It said 100 women just got posed nude at the Republican National Convention.
Were any of them pregnant?
Yes, there was
Interesting.
one. I did see one pregnant.
Nice. Well, all right, guys, I'm going to pull out of here. And you got any other closing remarks, Spy Boy?
I would like to just pay attention to what's happening today in the next few days at the convention, and likewise for the following ones. Pay attention to the news coverage of it, how one-sided it's going to be.
Well, it's supposed to be. It's a Republican convention, so they're going to give their one-sided view of that, and then we'll see in a couple of weeks the Democratic one-sided view, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And then
The news coverage is supposed to be one-sided.
No, not the news
I thought
coverage.
The news coverage
No.
The news coverage is supposed to be impartial.
It is. It should
but
reflect what is
it
going
should be.
on at that convention.
It should be, but it's not.
Well, listen, there's going to be commentary. Okay, if you're expecting a news report, a news broadcast from the convention, likely you're not going to see much of that. You're going to see some people reporting from the floor. That could maybe be considered a newscast or news report. But if they start giving opinions or point of view on it, then it becomes commentary. And you're going to get a lot of commentary because that's just the cycle that we're in now in the media. And all the cable news networks, there's very few newscasts. They'll say breaking news, and that story is a breaking news story, but then they're going to go in to talk about it. And then the opinions will come out. That's commentary. So we have to learn to separate one from the other, and that's just the way it is. That's the way the media is today, and that's what's being consumed, received, expected, and that's what's bringing the rating success to these various networks. So boom, that's it. And flipping that over to my dear friend in Chicago, Alpha, your closing words.
Well, Lee, I posted that story on the Facebook page. But I just want to say, you can't call for calm and common sense until there's transparency and really consequences for your actions. These young people are not going to continue to stand for just flat out and out murder without any consequences. Thanks a lot, Lee, and you take care, man.
All right. Thank you for calling in and being a part of the show today. Carol, you got about 30 seconds for your closing remarks?
No,
None?
no.
You going to be back tomorrow?
I don't know if Spy Boy's going to call in. I can stay home.
You don't like Spy Boy, do you?
I like Spy Boy,
Yeah?
but I can give him the second hour and I'll do the first.
All right.
Did you hear that, Spy Boy?
And maybe he needs a Spy Boy show. What do you think of that?
No, he could come on here and do the second hour.
No. I don't want that much of Spy Boy. That's too much. Have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow at 10 Pacific time on The Power of Voices. You've been listening and watching The Lee Michaels Show. Thank you so much. And don't forget to share this broadcast. Share it in your social media so we can spread the word and blow it up. Have a great day.
Yeah, because we need senior citizen shows.
Speak for yourself.